or maybe how to create some tool items, but we'll go through and start doing this session. So for those of us that didn't know, Bluebeam Review has cloud storage and also collaboration on 2D or 3D PDFs through Studio Projects or Studio Sessions. So in order to log into any of these, you have to click the little icon. And for those of us that didn't know, we are in Bluebeam Review 20. If you are in anything below 18, so 17 and below, your interface is going to look different. But if you are following from an earlier or newer version, I mean, you will be able to see the panels on the left-hand side. You usually start out in a different profile called Review. So you'll still see it's in the bottom left-hand side on the panel. I just changed my profile to Review Advanced because I like having some toolbars already assigned to the top area so I can quickly grab some markups when I'm going through. But in order to log into Studio, if you don't have a Studio, you need to create a Bluebeam ID. This will be used when you're doing Studio projects or Studio sessions. I always recommend when you're creating an ID, do not use a display name that's an alias like Batman because it is a professional environment, hopefully. And if not, use an alias, completely up to you.
And this is free to create that account, right? It doesn't cost my company anything to use this.
Yeah, correct, Jason. So if you are trying to communicate in a Studio project or Studio sessions, I don't know why I'm trying to create an account. You do not need to have a paid license of Review. Review actually has a free version. It's view mode, and you can still get access to these studios. So if you're trying to invite any outside organization to any of these items, you are able to. And then once you log in, you'll have the top left area, you'll have projects. Again, projects is unlimited storage for any file type. And Jason's going to say, any file type? Yes, any file type. So you can store your Civil 3D project in here. You can store your Revit file in here. You can store your Excel file if you wanted to. How projects works as a check-in.
One of us froze up.
Checkout basis. So in order for you to work on something, that was probably me. Am I good?
Yep.
I'm back. Great. Zoom likes to put me in the shadow realm sometime. But going forward again, if you unlimited storage for any file type, any file size as well. And then Studio Sessions, which is what we're going to be getting to, is collaboration on 2D or 3D PDFs. There are some file caps for different PDF sizes, but let's go in through and create one. I'm back, right? Because
You're back.
David Gear said I froze. Great. So I'm going to go in and create one, and we're just going to name it Morning Coffee Review. And I am going to then show you how we are going to add some different items. So from here again, I said new for the session part. We can add folders or files into here. I'm just going to add some file. We'll just add this Morning Coffee Review background. So him and I both have it. And then some options down below. So down below you have permission settings, so you can save as. So anyone that's invited, can they save as? Can they print? Can they markup? Can they markup alert? Which is actually a pretty cool feature, and we'll run through a little bit of that as well. Or can they add documents? Then you have restrict attendees by email. This means that you can always add yourself to a session by ID. If this button is selected, that means that they have to have their email address in the session in order for them to be accepted into it. Then you have session expiration date. This is great if you have deadlines and you're trying to kick people out because they didn't meet their deadline or they did and they're done with what they're doing in the session. That's what this expiration is for. It doesn't close you out if you're the owner. Like right now, I'm creating it, so I'm the owner. But it doesn't kick you out. You can then restart an expiration if you needed to as well. So I'm going to hit OK. It's going to take a second here as it pings up to the cloud. And some people always ask, hey, you added that document. Where is that from? So this is from my desktop. It's a direct copy. It is not a through and through connection. OK. So now from here, I have the ability to go through and actually invite people. This is a new window. This was, do you remember what edition update that was, Jason?
I want to say it was 19 or 20. It was
Yeah, it was
very recent.
19. I was going to say 20, so it's either 19 or 20. One of the addition updates is this new interface. Before, it's a smaller window, but from here you can actually copy and paste. This is a great new addition to sessions. You can copy and paste mass email lines if you had any. You can go in and add emails by group. So if you have any emails by groups created, and then you also have the email address. So for me, I can go to Jason, 'cause that's who I'm going to invite. Boom, hit OK. And then from here, we can go and invite attendees as well. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to have Jason join by the actual address, and I'm going to uncheck an attendees permission list. So Jason, if you can just type that in real quick, it is 108-656-517.
All right, I gotta sign in first here.
It will send them an invite too as well. So for those of us that are inviting people, one person asked, will you show us the SharePoint integration? We currently don't have SharePoint, but if you're looking for an integration in terms of markup capabilities, I can show you what it looks like on our end, right, in terms of it just being in a session. I don't know how it would close out on SharePoint. Maybe that's something we can address later on internally to see if we would like to demo that. Can you free view mode add markups? So if you have free mode, you cannot mark up in review natively. But if you were invited to a session, you can mark up on those PDFs in that session. Next question, will you explain the difference between Studio and Studio Prime? Yep. So Studio Prime is meant to manage your studio projects. Studio projects and studio sessions. So Studio Primes is a URL. I will log into it. It is subscription based and it allows for integrations into other softwares like SharePoint. Somebody asked. Let's 1 second. So I'm going to log into our Studio Prime here. You can always log into your Studio item if you don't have Studio Prime. It's just a different window, it looks like. So this is Studio Prime, and we get access to analytical data from specific sessions and projects. We also have integrations and optimizations for Studio projects. If we want to have folder organization, it can be automized right here from the Studio Prime portal. It is a subscription base. You do have to pay extra monthly for that subscription. Let's see what other questions. Is the Bluebeam session versus collaborate session? Okay, we won't, Brian. Is it Bluebeam sessions versus collaborate BIM 360 docs or Bluebeam sessions with collaborate BIM 360 docs? Also heading out. So versus. It depends on what you're trying to gain, right? So what capabilities are you looking for in terms of markup capabilities? That's kind of the road I would go around to figure out what is the best solution for you, Brian. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Tim.
Is there a way to slip sheet an updated PDF in a session that was a combined PDF? Good question.
I don't know if you can slip sheet in a session. So let's see. Batch, slips, not split, slip sheet. Because slip sheet would be me doing it outside. So let's go and see.
You'd have to.
What, Jason?
Yeah.
I think because
it's not going to let you find in your navigating. It's not going to let you find something that's uploaded to the studio. So you'd have to actually pull it off of the session, off of the cloud, and then put it back up.
Yeah, it's going to do this, which is what I believe it's going to just slip sheet them and save it to wherever it is, and then open it up outside of the session, and then we'd have to add it to the session. Okay. So it's going to put the output folder. So whatever native output folder you have, I'm just going to hit OK. Yeah, so I thought it's exactly just saves to the area of wherever you had it defaulting saving to. and it's not going to upload it, then you'd have to upload it to the session in order for you to have access to that slip sheet. He added an additional part to that, didn't he? Okay, so
Yeah.
also,
Is there a way for someone to keep ownership of a markup if the marked up set was removed temporarily and placed back into the session? Now, that is a very tricky question. One of the cool things about using these sessions is that whomever is making the markups is in full control of that. So even though Michael is the admin of this particular session, if I were to place markups, he can't mess with them. He can't erase them. He can't move them. He can't do anything like that. So in this scenario, I don't know if it would keep the ownership if you pulled that off and then put it back up.
you can change ownerships now too. In Review 20, there was an update. As an admin, you can change ownerships of specific markups, but temporarily, whoever is the original maker. So let me add a PDF here. If you want to open this up, and we'll show how that works. If you want to make a markup, Jason, and we'll show how that maintains the integrity of the file as we're kind of going through the session here.
All right. In there.
And for those of us that didn't know, you can follow attendees. So I'm going to follow Jason as he's making his markups, and it shows a little indicator where his mouse is, which is actually pretty cool.
Yep. There we go.
Great. So when I try to go over and select his, it's grayed out. I can't do anything with it. I can't change it. I can't even change the color. If I go to the settings in here, all of it's grayed out. So it maintains the integrity of the original markup owner. Alrighty, so another question was anonymous. Hello, anonymous. How do you do a punch list in Bluebeam Review? Do you want to run that one, Jason?
Sure. There's a couple ways to go about this, and it depends on what your version of a punch list is. So one thing that I like to do is see. Oh, so I suppose you need to stop sharing, or I can.
Oh, you want me to stop sharing? You're going to share? Great. Yep.
Too many windows here going on. So I'll move mine over here. There we go. You see my screen now?
Yes, I do.
All right. So let's pretend that since we're messing around with files, I'll just stay in this one. And we'll use this for punch listing. And what I like to show off is the default options that are inside of Review. There is a profile in here called Field Issues. And this Field Issues is a perfect example of generic punch listing. And if we go to our tool chest, you're going to see there's already a whole bunch of options in here for carpentry issues and electrical issues and flooring issues. And these are all pre-populated with comments in them. This can be toggled on and off by going to our gear icon to go to detail. So you can see that this WR means wall finish, DM means door magnet. There's all sorts of things that you can pre-populate depending on the type of work that you're doing. And what's nice is that I can go grab these and drop them into my file and use this as my punch list. And then when I'm done, of course, I can go to my markups list and see all of the things that are in here. And from here, if I wanted to really get technical with it, I can use my PDF summary, create a table, create a checklist, whatever to export this. That's weird that's grayed out.
Are we in a session right now?
Yeah, I'm using the
Yeah, that's why.
So.
Yeah.
But if I had this set up, then I could create that table, and then it would. Let's see how ugly this is going to look. This made that summary outside of my session. So if you see that little icon there, that's the studio session icon. This PDF summary that it created does not live inside of our session that we've got going on. But here I can, obviously configure what columns I want, how I want this configured, but that would work for my checklist output or my
So I'm
going to
raise my hand here, Jason, and ask, Why does yours look so well organized compared to the automatic printout of the sheet PDF summary, right? Because you have columns organizing the way your data is being distributed here, right? The outline is what I'm trying to get at. This template outline.
This is the table style, not the flow style. And flow style is what's defaulted, which actually looks pretty good when you get it configured just right. So since I'm still sharing, there's an option here for flow or table. And when you configure your table style, you're going to get that output like I had. If we go to flow, it's going to look a little different. And this can be, of course, filtered. If I don't want to see, the spaces, if I don't want to see the status, I can choose how I want this. And what's nice about all of this, of course, is that any customizations that we do can be saved, right? So I can export and save that configuration so I don't have to go through this every single time. But now that I have the flow style chosen, I'll hit OK. And now you see this is organized a little differently. So from here, we've got, it's not quite the same. I like the table style a little better, but it depends on what you're doing. I have seen some firms go really detailed with their tables where it looks really professional. And again, it's all using those pre-populated comments.
That's great.
Question. How do you, while I'm on that topic, how do you create custom icons for a punch list? Well, all of these are built in. So you could just use these and then modify them if you want these to be whatever you want. And then it's going to show up in your recent tools. And then you can just drag it into the tool chest that you want. And from there, you can customize the details by going to the detail option. And you can just click on these options here.
Answer
TR, tree removal, which is sad. I don't like to remove trees, but what we're getting. So easy to create. I usually just modify these because these are already set up pretty nicely.
Because if you set them up the wrong way and you put the comments in, it's going to change the text.
Yeah.
There's one question that says, is it possible to forward session invitations to someone? Yes, it is. You can forward the invitation, but if you're restricting attendees by email address and their email address isn't in there, right, they wouldn't have access to it. But you can also invite by this. Jason's showing right there.
Yep.
So answer that live. Let's see what else. Is Studio Prime same with enterprise licensing? Nope. Enterprise licensing is different than Studio Prime. Studio Prime is again meant for integration and managing data from what's happening in my studio projects and studio sessions. Enterprise licensing allows you to have a view into what our licenses are on, like computer, the name of the computer, and then the user attached to that computer. And then you also are able to revoke licenses. You also get a 5% overage of installs. And you also get access to, nope, that's just enterprise. Sorry. I thought we were talking about maintenance. I was leading into other things. Next one, Jody. Do you need a license to access drawings? Nope. So Bluebeam Drawings is a software. You do not need a license to get into Bluebeam Drawings. That is meant for easy access to PDFs in the field or via URL. I have it on my iPhone, my iPad. It downloads really quick. You can see older versions, but you do not need a license to access drawings. But you do need active maintenance on your licenses to upload to a drawings. So if we were to add sheets, right, he's able to upload because he has active maintenance on his licenses.
So pretty cool function there.
Yeah, and I think we're confusing, Jody, drawings and sessions. So sessions is separate. So Bluebeam Review, so reviews the software. Drawings is another software. Projects in review does tie into drawings, but not sessions, okay? So if you're looking to mark up PDFs, that would be in and collaborating on them live would be a session. If you're just trying to view documents quickly out in the field, that would be drawings. So, like Jason was showing earlier, I could have my punch walkthrough on my iPad in a session and start punching items and taking pictures and attaching pictures to them if I wanted to in the session, then come back to my office chair, look at the session right at the desktop, and kind of understand the data that we just put in.
Is one question: is follow attendee automatic, or you need to click on a setting? That is absolutely clickable. You just find their name, right click, and go to follow attendee. I love your ability to ask hard questions.
Who's asking?
All right. Suggestions on changing incorrect file names after markups. Currently, once the file is downloaded, renamed, then re-uploaded, the markups are now owned by the individual that uploaded it. If I upload the renamed file, can you show how to copy the markups from the original file to the renamed file all at once? Also, is this available review standard or extreme version only? Excellent question. Let me show you how that's going to work. So we have our markups list here, and there's a ton of power that can be done in here. And one of those options is the ability to export our markups. However, this isn't going to work inside of our session. So we would need to pull it off, export those markups, and then we could import them back in. I'm using Review Extreme. So is Michael. This function works on all of the Bluebeams. So Review, CAD, or Extreme, even iPad version. Question about review for iPad doesn't work anymore. I've purged my life of Apple products, so I thankfully don't have to answer that question. But Michael loves it.
Yeah, so Jason, I love my Apple products, except for the desktop. Okay, so don't get me wrong. But yes, it still works on iOS. I still use it on iOS. The only thing you can't do in a session on an iPad is a 3D PDF. You can't view it, but you can still be in a session and start marking up from your iPad. Yep, maybe that's something we'll write down, Jason, at some point in one of these days of Tuesday. We'll go through and show how that looks for my iPad.
Definitely. All right. Next question. Is there a workflow chart or reference document that shows how to set up a project? I.e., I have a 35% set, and I get 65% and want to overlay 65 on 35 to see what changed. I am new to Bluebeam and want to start standing up my project for future use. This is a great opportunity to use layers inside of Review. And if you go to layers, you can create a layer based on those options. So if you want to do a 35% layer where all of your 35% markups are there, you can do that, and then you'll create another layer for your 65%. However, those documents can be saved, and you can use the overlay function to overlay your 35 over your 65 or vice versa, and it will show you what's different about them. All right.
I'm monitoring the chat, so I'm sorry, Jason.
All right. Matt Lynn. How would one revise an unchecked punch list item to checked as the items are completed? Good question there. So let's go in and I'll take a look at my markups list. And if I have the column for checkmark enabled, so we can go to our column and we can make sure the checkmark is there. Once that's there, I can click on it and it will check it off. So we have those options, but that column needs to be enabled first.
Yep. Alrighty, next question. I'm a fairly new user to Bluebeam and don't know anything about, I didn't know anything about the studio. That comes up a lot. Only about, 40% of users are not using Studio. So be aware of that. If you haven't used it, check out some videos. We have some quick tip videos on our website and YouTube and wherever we post on social media. that details how to do some of these items. And we also have some webinars that Jason and I have done for those items. And can you share the benefits of to using Studio at a basic level? Yeah, so basic level, what Studio offers is either a cloud storage like a standard FTP site, or B, live collaboration on 2D, 3D PDFs, right? So you can collaborate, me being a structural discipline, Jason being civil, maybe we need to collaborate on a PDF. And in this current climate, we're not meeting in the office to collaborate, right? We have that ability to go in and collaborate on 2D and 3D PDFs. We can even use a chat feature if we wanted to as well. So we can go in and chat with each other and say, hey, how's your day going? Um, be aware, I always love to say this, but be professional, okay, guys? Because guys and gals, but because what happens is you can print out this chat, okay? The only thing you can do is filter out and say, don't print out the whole chat, okay? You can't just filter out specific participants when you're doing a quick report. But at the end, when you're creating reports and closing out the session, you can deselect specific markups from specific people to not, no, not specific markups, a specific person's markups to not be displayed.
Yeah, Studio is fantastic for collaboration. And as soon as the COVID thing happened and people couldn't collaborate in the office anymore, we can't gather on the hood of a truck out in the field. This is how we're doing it. And it's fantastic because it's free and it works on all the versions. And I do
Exactly.
like this option where you can export this list, shows you who did what, who showed up. So you have that attendance record as well.
Jason, I'm gonna quarterback this back to you for the Tim question. He's re-asking another one. Thanks, Tom.
All right.
Hope to see you
Uh,
next week as well, Tom.
so is there a way for someone to keep ownership of a markup at the markup set was removed temporarily and placed back into the section? When person A adds a markup to a section document, person B removes the PDF temporarily to modify something, then loads it back into the section. Person A is locked out of their markup at that point. You mentioned we can change ownership of the markups. That may solve the problem. How do you do that? That's a function I'm not aware of.
Yeah, so you can change ownership with the new edition update. Let me see what the edition update was.
And
Release notes. Let me go to here. 1 second.
so while you're looking that up, there's a question about any advice to where to get good tool chest items for architect markups. And I like to show this function off. There is a review extensions, and it's actually hard to find. So I'm going to put it in the chat. But there are tool sets, stamps, profiles, and dictionaries. And if you go down here, there's already some architectural ones that have doors and landscape features and people. There are some estimation, construction stuff. So you can download all this stuff and go through, use it as your starting point to modify, or use it forever. It's got some good stuff in here. Use that link that I put in the chat, and you can download stamps, profiles, all this good stuff.
So you basically go into the attendees, you click on them. Okay, here, I'll just share my screen, the video of it, because it's going to be better than us going through and doing it. Let's see. I've lost the Zoom chat. Great. Okay. So it was this most recent release, review 20.1. Admins now have the ability to securely reassign markup ownership when a collaborator permanently leaves a session, saving time and reducing confusion in the process. New owners will also receive an email alerting them to their new status. Change in ownership will be noted in the session record, again, like that Jason was talking about, the session record, and can be included in the summary reports. So basically what you're going to be going to do is once this refreshes, give it a couple seconds. We can see more of the end run now, but you're going to go over to the bar symbol here. Once you have the attendees list, you're going to then go to the attendees list, select the person, and then down in the bottom right, you're going to have deny, and you're going to say denied users of the markup. What do you want to do? Reassign the markups to someone else. And you get to go through and pick the owner of who you're assigning those through.
That's pretty neat.
Edition update. So I'll share.
Bluebeam drawings for phones or tablets. Yep, anywhere you've got an internet connection, you can use Bluebeam drawings.
And you don't need to be, if you're working out in the field, you just have to have internet to download, but then you can be off internet to have access to them. How do you create a custom stamp for shop drawing review? Do you want to do that or you want me to do that?
You're sharing, might as well let you do it.
Okay. Come on, Mike, you're already here. Okay, so if we're gonna go through and create a custom stamp, for those of us that didn't know where the stamps are, you go to Tools, you go to Stamp up here. I have a ton of custom stamps. These are a lot of fun to go through. The only thing you do need to have is Extreme if you're trying to create a JavaScript behind your stamp. For those of us that didn't know, when you go through and select a stamp, some of these are already pre-made like Jason was showing earlier. When you click it, this is the JavaScript behind this particular stamp that I downloaded from there. And it has clickable buttons that assign like a check in whatever phase it was on, right? That's what that ability is for that specific one. But then you can go into stamps, and if you're trying to just go through and modify an existing one, you can go over and hit the pencil, or you can scroll all the way down because I have a lot of custom stamps and say create stamps. Now stamps are seen as PDFs in review, and just putting that PDF on top of whatever PDF you had before. But you go through and say whatever the subject is. I'll just put morning coffee review, and I capitalize my O. There we go. And the author of whoever you want it to be. What is a template? So you can have a template already pre-assigned. Is there going to be text in the stamp already? Is there going to be a text with a border around the stamp? With a date in border, we'll do that one. What's the width? You can always change the size when you get into it, so it's completely up to you. And then your blend mode, how is the stamp going to look when you're placing it onto PDFs? You have a bunch of different options. And then you have the opacity of it, rotation, color. I'm just going to hit OK. And there we go. So here's my stamp. There's that text again that I had for it. For those of us that didn't know, you can add dynamic options for in here. And if you don't have any available, you can just select create a new text box and dynamic will pop up. These are your options for dynamic input of information like the user, file without extension, or the date if you wanted to. And again, you can make this larger or smaller just by dragging these out. It sees it as a PDF. These are markups already pre-created, so you can go to there. And then you right click and save as. So you need to save the stamp. It's going to default to the default stamp folder location. These are where all mine are living. If you have your own default location, be aware they need to change that to stamps down here. So you see them because this is pulling everything from that folder. And you change that folder right here. Alrighty. Did I freeze at all? Am I good?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Thanks.
As you're staring, but I think you're reading the comments.
Yep. One question, will you be automatically sending invites for future events or do we need to sign up each time? These sessions are going to be going on for at least a couple months, I believe. So every Tuesday at 8:30 Central, you can count on these. And I believe that that Zoom link will be different each time.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to get back to you on that because we don't know how our marketing is sending out the invites, unfortunately.
I can chime in on that one.
Oh, great. You're here.
Marketing department. Always have room. We have the same link to register, but each time you'll need to register. So that way, if you can't make it, your calendar is not being bombarded with the same invite each week. So it's available at atgusa.com/events. I'll put the link in our chat box. But you can go check it out and sign up for whatever ones work for you. And we'll always send a follow-up email afterwards with a link to the next one too. So if you don't have time to go to our website, you can just check it in your inbox.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. Let's see. A lot of anonymous. Hey, don't feel free to actually put it in so we can talk to you and know who you are, or not. It's up to you. It's completely okay.
I'm going to jump down the list. There's one from Andre here. Do you list a topic for future sessions? What do you want to see?
Yeah.
This is all about.
It's all about you.
What our attendees want to see. So if you have an idea of something that you want us to focus on, we can certainly do that next week. Since you're the first one to ask, we'll give you the first opportunity to discuss what we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah, like that. There's a question over in the chat. For those of us that are new to using Bluebeam, is there a best way to learn going to your videos? So there's that's kind of a twofold question. You can always look at our quick tip videos or some of the things that we have posted from webinars, but we also offer training from either Jason, myself. We can go through and do a training, customize it to whatever you need, or just maybe overall essentials. You want to learn everything about Bluebeam that's covered. We can run through an essentials course, or again, custom specific training targeting whatever your specific needs are. Do you have anything to add to that, Jason, maybe?
No, we do a lot of Bluebeam training. And it, like Michael said, it can be anywhere from the Bluebeam certified training all the way down to, hey, we just need to do a demo for our users. We'll take an hour lunch break and just highlight some of the main things that most people use every day. And then from there, of course, we can go all the way up to that 4 or 5 hour session where we're diving into each little function.
All right, so I'm going to write down some of these suggestions. One was talking about drawing sets.
One question, speed tips for making Bluebeam run faster. If you're on an older version of Review, especially like 17, 18, there were some issues where how it handled processing and it was noticeably slower. I haven't had any issues on the 20 version, but I'm also on the world's fastest laptop. But there is a little bit of a difference there in the newer version. So if you're not on the new one, try that first.
And then second, check that the PDF was actually created from Bluebeam. That's the second one I always check. You can always go to Documents. I forgot what, I think it's like Control B maybe is the hotkey for it. We can't learn hotkeys as instructor because everyone questions what we're doing. But check the document. If it's not created from Bluebeam, create it from Bluebeam. Bluebeam does follow the ISO standard, International Standard Organization for Coding PDFs, but other softwares code their viewports different as like JPEGs or GIFs. So it creates a larger file size for you, which is a lot of fun. But I always usually recreate it as a Bluebeam PDF. And then if in all need possible, I'll separate it into sets so that it's an individual PDF, creating a better performance because it's not trying to load the entire PDF.
One question from Don, how do I contact you for training? That's a good one. Go to the website.
Yeah, you can go to the website and wow, you stumped us on that one.
Go to
marketing again.
marketing.
You could also email yatg@atgusa.com. I'll put that in the chat too. And our department can help you take the next steps there to get you through training.
Awesome. Thank you.
Shoot. Got lots of good questions here. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Love the feedback.
Would love a session on dashboards. I recently started creating some, and look, now Michael just did an amazing webinar on this, or was it a
white paper?
White paper. So if you go to atgusa.com, under resources, I believe there's a link to download that white paper. It's going to walk you through a lot of those steps for dashboards. That's a function I didn't know was available until Michael showed me, and it's just amazing.
And that's free, by the way, that white paper detailing how to create dashboards. We also offer training on creating specific dashboards if you need more help, especially with the coding. I left that out in the white paper in terms of creating drop-down capabilities, which is a JavaScript addition added into a button. So if you want to get more detailed, then I always suggest training or look at the white paper. It has a lot of information on creating dashboards.
All right. Let's find another question here. Do stamps and adders, so any add-ons, persist between software updates? I want to say they do. So any customized tool sets, I would imagine.
They do train. Oh, like if you update, are you still gonna have everything the same? Is that the question?
That's what I would
Yes.
imagine it would be. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go
Post
from
that.
like 20.1 to 20.12 or something, you still have the same.
Please post that link to the enlarged notes and symbol site. That's in that in the
It's at
chat.
the top, right? Yeah.
support.bluebeam.com/review-extensions.
Are you looking at the chat or are you looking at the questions and answers?
I'm looking at question and answers.
Okay.
Because we're getting questions on both places, so we're trying to squeeze in as many as we can.
Keep the chat to chat with each other or chat with us. Q&As, please go in the Q&A so we don't have to monitor both as much.
We're both really good at Bluebeam, but Zoom can throw us off all day long. All right. Ooh, good question from Don. If I create a custom stamp, can it be shared with other Bluebeam users? Yes, absolutely. You can change the folder that those stamps are located in. So if you had a server location, you could put them all there, or you can, of course, export them and import them.
Yep. Import stamp, change folder, whatever your default. This is my default. I think this is default out of review. So it's your C drive, program data, Bluebeam software, Bluebeam review 20 stamps.
Another question, does Bluebeam auto update? If not a friendly reminder, yes, it absolutely does, but it's going to prompt you to do that update because the file, the download is actually pretty large and it will take a few minutes to do that update.
And you can always go to help and check for updates.
There you go. Your 2018 needed updating, that might certainly help with your speed issues. Okay, not seeing the link for the white paper. So I'm going to open up the web tab and
here, yeah, I'll do it while you monitor the chat since you're doing an excellent job.
See, you're using Chrome. I always use the Bluebeam web tab when I'm inside of review because it's just one less window to have open.
You caught me red-handed.
Busted. All right, so we're going to answer.
But I didn't want to open it up in here, so I'm going to ATG resources.
All right. Coffee's getting low, and we got about 13 minutes left today. So if you have any other questions, type them into the Q&A box. Some of these questions are fantastic, and we're going to build on them in a future session. So like that flip sheet functionality, we might show that one later. Something I have encountered is being locked out of a file when my VPN connection drops. Even if the file is open, I cannot save a local copy.
That's because it's on your VPN. So your VPN connection is dropping, right? It's not maintaining the connection to that PDF. So that's a VPN issue. I would recommend storing it on a studio project.
Studio project to a save as.
Yeah. When you're ready to give it back to everybody, right? Or you can share. Hey, oh, I have it open. Here's the white paper. It's in the chat. You can share documents in Studio. So for those of us that are using another FTP site that we pay for, this one's free. As we go down to here, we can go down and say, hey, I'm in too many of these. Great. So if I open up this file share here, I can share my projects. Let me close out of all of these. So let's say I had a Revit file and I wanted to coordinate and share a static Revit file with somebody. I can just right click and say share link. And from here, I have some abilities like share for the lifetime of the project or 24 hours, or require a password if I wanted to, and then hit OK. And from here, it's just a link. You get to send them a link. So if you wanted to go through, you can do the link as well.
Comment in the chat. Can't see the white paper link. I clicked on it and it worked just fine for me.
Yeah, it works for me.
But yeah, you'll take to that portal, enter in some information, and then you'll get that download for that PDF file. Would like a T session for the work process to go from CAD to PDF to field and round trip back to CAD. Field would be survey work type stuff. That's a good one. especially with the later functions in AutoCAD and Civil 3D, where you can actually import a PDF file and convert that to line work. That would be a good one for a future session. We might even have tea that day just for you, Ed.
Yeah, or I guess a good workflow, because you can link PDFs now in Revit, right? So if you maintain that PDF with some markups, linked it into Revit, that could almost be like a through and through connection, quote unquote, right?
Revit and survey work don't go together though, thankfully.
Oh, he said survey work?
Yeah.
Well, I butted in with my discipline, sorry.
All right. Carrie is coming in clutch with the ATG events information in the chat box. All right. Is there a way to track or highlight changes in the document since last viewing? For example, a new change since I last viewed the doc last week would be highlighted. That's a great question, and that's a perfect use of Studio projects with the versioning. Do you have any versions on your
I do.
that you have open right now?
Yep. So talk me through the question.
Way to track or highlight changes in the document since the last time it was viewed.
Yep. So version control, this one actually has some markups within the project. You have version control capabilities. So if I right click on one, I could have opened it too, but you can go ahead and see revision history here, and you can see all of the revisions that have taken place. So how Bluebeam Review Studio projects, mouthful, works is that it's a check-in, check-out basis. So every time you check in, you should comment. That's going to be best practices. You can tell here I was a little slacking in my best practices myself. But as you go through here again, you're going to add comments. And then from here, you can see an open latest versions. And the great thing about this is you can restore from that later version, right? So if I wanted to bring back version 8, it would bring it back to the top, but I could still come back to version 11. So every time you check it in, whatever markups were added during that check-in, it saves during that time and moves it forward.
Interesting. All right. So some folks are not seeing links posted in the chat. That's odd.
Oh, is it all? Yeah, it's all panelists. That's everybody, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and attendees.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, we blew it.
Not panelists. There we go.
See, we are not Zoom experts.
There we go.
It was just me and you, Jason.
All right. Thanks for letting us know, everybody. I appreciate that. Let's see. David here. Please share how people might be able to get the fastest laptop in the world. Just go to bimbox.com.
Yes, bimbox.com. Jason and I are both running off of bimboxes.
Yep. Question from Tammy. Why would you want to use the check item instead of the status option to show completed items in the punch list?
I'll let you take that.
Shows more trackable data than the checkmark does. Fantastic question. So let me share my screen again.
And I'll take over the chat. So you left off on Tammy, and these other ones we're just going through. Okay.
Yeah, I lost track of my order. So the question, using the status option. So I'm going to go ahead and just open up another file that has a bunch of markups in it, just for the sake of making life easier.
As you do that, so quick drawings again is separate software that Bluebeam has. So drawings is meant for viewing PDFs out in the field, quickly, easy, streamlined access to them. And sessions is meant for collaboration on 2D and 3D PDFs in Review, which is another software that Bluebeam has. So answer that.
So the question going back, why would I want to use a checkbox? Just because it's fast. So I could do that checkbox. The other way to go about it is to either reply or set a status. So inside of the comments, this one says minimum 36 inches. If I right click, I have an option to reply or set a status. So if I reply, yes, for Jane on Tuesday. I can leave that comment there, or I can go in and say set a status, and I can say that that is accepted, rejected, canceled, completed, or none. So you can go through these certain things. And that does add a lot more detail than just a simple check mark. But the check mark is handy if you're doing red lines. Let's say that you're the drafter who received a bunch of red lines from the designer or engineer. You can just go through here and check them off as you complete them. So it might be a different type of review than actually collaborating with other subs or other folks.
Another question. So viewing changes, right? So this one was saying, well, can I see changes from last week? So you can actually filter out by date. And that would help you see which ones were formulated per week if you wanted to, right? That way, then whichever ones don't fall into that filter, they'll be grayed out. And the ones that don't maintain their regular one. So that's from an anonymous attendee. Again, feel free to actually chat so we can talk with each other. And we will all become Zoom experts at some point.
So here's that filter. This filter changed greatly in the version 20. So if you don't see this filter turning orange like this, it's only in that newer version, but there is that option to just filter to the past 2 days or 7 days if you want to see what's different.
So for the check mark, is there a way to set it up for halftone aside from using statuses? I don't know the answer to that one. You stumped me.
Yeah,
anonymous.
I'm not sure either.
This anonymous person is killing it.
Can another user uncheck the box? I believe so. And
yeah, it's in the markups list.
Yeah, the reason you might want to set that status is because it's going to tell you who did it and when they did it.
Yeah, status is a running, rolling effect for that one.
All right, so we got about 3 minutes left, and I'm going to jump off right in 3 minutes. But this is a fantastic turnout. I want to thank you all for coming today, and I hope to see you again next Tuesday. We'll got a couple more minutes to answer some questions.
Yeah, I'll be on about 5 minutes after. We thank you all for your time. If we didn't get to your questions, we apologize. Please tune in next week so we can answer your questions at the beginning. I'll write down some names for people that are asking questions so we can get to those people first as we run along through. And I believe we can print out or have these questions still available for us to maybe shoot you all an email if we didn't get to them as well. That's why it's better to not be anonymous. But again, you're more than welcome to. I'll stop grilling you on it.
All right, hearing some comments here, learning a few things already, and thanks for the information. And all of this wouldn't be possible if you didn't show up and ask questions. So thank you so much for being a part of our session this morning. This has been fun, and I'm looking forward to the next ones because we're going to answer some of these questions. Bluebeam drawings on the iPad, managing markups and studio sessions. What was that other one? Slip sheet functionality.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good stuff that we'll
and then drawing sets too. Yeah.
Slip sheet is a very popular one today.
Let's see. Going back to the question for iPad. Sorry, Apple guy here. Same, no worries. If review doesn't work for the iPad now, it does work. So it's still on the iPad. They didn't discontinue it on the iPad. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Again, we appreciate it. Jason, you're not here next week, right? But the following week, will you be the following week?
Yes.
Okay, so Jason will be back the following week. I'll be here next week, and moving forward for all of them, I'll be available. So feel free to see you all next week. And again, bring more questions. Try and stump whoever fills in for Jason next week, and myself maybe.
All right, I'm going to jump off. But thanks again, everybody, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Jason. All right, share my screen. Let's see if I can answer a couple more of these questions. Actually, people may have left. So for these questions, if I see any new questions, I'll answer them. But if not, thanks everyone for joining us today for this continuing session. And hopefully we'll see you next week as well. Bring your questions. if you have any trouble during out the week. If not, we'll just run through like a demo we did today in terms of using studio sessions. Maybe we'll do sets next week, or I'll bring up the iPad and show you how sessions works on the iPad maybe, or we'll go through drawings. We didn't go over what drawings looks like or in terms of adding and viewing those on your iPad or iPhone. Bring the iPad. All right, Andre, I'll bring the iPad. Maybe we'll start out from the iPad next week and showing you how it looks from the iPad and how you can make markups. Thank you. Next week, slip sheet. All right, I'm going to keep writing these down. Slip sheet. We can run a quick one on slip sheet. Actually, let's do it now. Let's see. Is this person in here still? Let's see. Yeah, great. So slip sheeting. You have the ability to slip sheet, so it's going to change out sheets or add sheets or append them, right? So depending on what you want to use for your slip sheet method, you have the ability to go through and create a slip sheet by going to batch, and then you have the slip sheet. From here, you have the ability to add whatever sheets you're going to slip. I don't overwrite my existing ones because it's going to overwrite whichever slip sheet you have, okay? So 1 second here, let me go through and delete these. So when you're going through and slip sheeting, be aware that you need to copy them if you don't want the original one to be overwritten. So I'm copying these over here. So my original one here is going to be overwritten. So I always copy them over. This is my original. This is my revision that has some revisions in it. And those are the ones I'm going to end up slip sheeting. So I'm going to go to Files, slip sheet example here. Boom. I'm going to add this one, Files, slip sheet example. Here we go. And then you have some options. How are these going to match? So how are these pages going to match? Yep. Thanks, everyone, for coming out. As you start to exit here, I'm just going to answer this last one, and then we will end it. Again, this is how they are going to match. You could do some advanced options if you wanted to as well. Now I'm going to say match pages. It's going to go through and match them. It's going to show me this little window and show you which ones did match, which ones didn't match. So as you go through here, you can see which ones are matching. I also have an additional file that was not added for it. So as you can see here, unmatched, excuse me, these ones matched. This one didn't. And now it's going to say, okay, how do you want me to slip these sheets? Do you want me to go through and replace current pages with revised pages? Or do you want me to insert revised pages before the current pages? So you get to decide, is it going to replace them completely? Or is it going to insert the pages with the revised pages after? Then the next one, is it going to copy markups from current pages to the revised pages? Or is it, and then is it going to unflatten markups before copying them? Or is it going to flatten the markups when it copies them over? Stamp current pages superseded. So you see that superseded on which one, whatever was before or after concurrent for those. So I'm going to hit OK. And then it's in my default folder here of documents. And then you can go through and open up your slip sheet if you wanted to as well, which I am so happy that I remembered where that is. Exercise documents here. Let's go to boom. And we'll go to slip sheet. So again, it's going to overwrite this, whichever one it was for. So as you can see, this is 3, today's date. We'll open up that slip sheet. We'll go to the beginning. Slip sheet, boom, superseded. That was the one before. New one, because I wrote the word slip sheet. There's the new one. There's the old one. New one, old one. And as you go through. All righty. Thanks, everyone. Hopefully we will see you next week.